The day we were taken out of my home is a day I'll never forget. I woke up that day in complete darkness. The only sounds to be heard were the muffled voices coming from a television somewhere in the house, and the heavy breathing coming from my younger brother. He was still asleep. His body was not yet used to the near constant darkness. At that point, Aiden had only been down here with me for a month. He didn't win his birthday game this year. And I was 17 before I lost so large. That was almost a year ago now. I felt bad that Aiden only made it to 12, and he hadn't had much time to get used to the cruelty of these games. The day we were taken away started exactly the same as the 10 months leading up to it. Sitting in the darkness, listening to the voices from the television upstairs, and we slept on the floor. If we wanted beds, we'd have to win them in a game. Beds weren't important enough, though. I needed to make sure that we won enough food to stay healthy. Everything we needed could be won. We just had to be lucky enough. It didn't used to be all like this. Everything was fine before the stakes were raised. My mother always liked game shows. It was a fact that we knew since birth. You didn't horse around while she was watching her shows. You didn't yell, and you didn't interrupt. We weren't surprised when our lives started to share some characteristics of our mother's obsession. It started with the basic chore wheel. Better rewards for harder chores. Around the time I was 14 was when the games started to change. Mother seemed to be at her limit with trying to discipline us, and decided to add a discipline wheel. My oldest sister called it the Wheel of Misfortune, and the name just kind of stuck. Savannah was only a year older than me, and we managed to get along pretty well. It was hard not to be close and protective of each other when our only parent acted insane over the smallest things. The wheel had restrictions, and you had to be at least 10 years old to play. That saved Aiden a couple years of participating. Whenever we made the smallest of errors, the wheel would come out. We would spin to learn the consequences of our actions. Some of the consequences were intensely hard, and they grew worse as time passed. Scrubbing the floors with a cloth and bucket, writing lines turned into nights sleeping alone in the dark, unlit basement, and losing meals. Savannah lost it around the time that physical punishment came into play. And with her outburst about things being unfair came a new wedge on the board: isolation. Mother was so pleased with the way that her Wheel of Misfortune had finally come together with high risks and high rewards. She even added the isolation risk to the special birthday wheel. That wheel offered the opportunity to have a chore and punishment-free day, the meals of your choice for a week, and regular birthday treats. It also offered the risk of isolation and separation. Separation is what Mother called sending us to the dark, cold, damp basement. We would go blanketless on the cement floor for however long our separation prize said. None of us knew what isolation meant, and we didn't want to find out. Aiden had never even spun the wheel when Savannah hit the isolation wedge. Birthday wheels were both the best and worst ones. There's less options for so-called prizes, so all the wedges are supersized. This means it's also highly likely to hit one of the unfavorable rewards. It was Savannah's 16th birthday when she hit the isolation wedge. I remember that moment precisely. The sound of the wheel spinning, the ticking sort of noise as the wheel spun slower and slower. The absolute silence as the pointer stopped over the black wedge. Everyone was surprised. Of all the days she could have spun the unknown punishment. The rest of the day was calm. We all got dinner, so no one got into trouble. And when it was time for bed, Mother and Savannah had went for a walk outside. stayed awake in bed for hours, just wondering how long the isolation would last. We woke up the next morning without Savannah. Mother told us she shipped her away to our grandmother's farm to deal with her unruly behavior. That day, Mother gave Aiden and I each a gift. Mine was a key on a necklace, identical to the one my mother had been wearing around her neck all morning. Savannah never came home, and we never dared to speak out against our mother and risk even worse punishment. Things went on like that for a while, and Mother continuously found new reasons for us to spin the wheel. A few months before I turned 18, I lost big on the wheel. Mother had gone and set it up with severe risks, because I had gone to bed without putting the dishes away the night before. My prize was a year in separation, with the bonus benefit of being allowed to spin the wheel for supplies once a day. I was allowed out of the room to do chores, but much of my time was spent sitting on the cold, wet floor in the darkness. When I won the right to it, I received meals, but I had gone days at a time without eating while down there. When you're in separation, physical punishment is more frequent, since no one will see the evidence. Schools were called and told that whichever child was visiting a sick relative across the country and would be out for a while. Apparently, Mother had told everyone that I had gone to live with my father, a man who I've never met or even heard of before. I suppose it makes sense for how long I was supposed to be away. I tried screaming the first few nights of my extended separation. That didn't get me far. Our house is nearly a mile away from the neighbors. Everything around us was fields and swamps. Mother didn't appreciate the screaming and gave me several nights of bruising and bleeding. 3/4 of the way through my allotted time was when Aiden lost Large. It was his 12th birthday, and he didn't get the best prize. I wasn't shocked when Aiden ended up in separation that same night. He only had 30 days. The day we were taken was the day that his separation ended. That was the last day I ever woke up in the darkness. The last day I woke up to him breathing heavily across the room. Mother let him out, and not long after is when it happened. Aiden was going with Mother to the grocery store. I would be staying locked in the frigid basement. They were loading the groceries into the car when he did it. He ran, likely fearing that these punishments would have him disappear like Savannah had. Mother didn't waste time dealing with the open trunk and a half cart of groceries. She immediately got in the driver's seat and followed him. He didn't even make it out of the parking lot before he gave up and got in the car. When he joined me in separation that afternoon, he told me that he was afraid she would run him over if he kept going. Only minutes after he had come into the basement, Mother brought down a wheel with the light. Aiden spun isolation, and Mother quickly ran upstairs. We came back down, and she gave me another key on a necklace, grabbed Aiden by the arm, and left without saying a word. It was hours before there came knocking at the door. It was loud and echoed through the house, and I took a risk knowing that Mother hadn't come into the house since leaving with Aiden. I screamed for help, and I shivered in the darkness when the knocking paused at my screams. Then came louder pounding, the front door being forced open, with heavy footsteps running into the house. I responded to the knocking at the basement door with a more panicked scream. These were the loudest sounds that I had heard in almost a year. They were the only people outside of my family that I had heard speak in so long. I cried when they brought me outside. I hadn't left the house in a year. I was immediately taken away from the house, in the hands of the law and government to find a suitable home. The people who surrounded me often spoke about obvious signs of abuse. I didn't know what to tell them. So for the first few days, all I did was ask where my brother was. But they couldn't find him or my mother. Eventually, I was told that they came to my house because someone had seen the incident outside the grocery store and wrote down the license plate. They were concerned that this woman might be abusing her children. I'm happy someone finally noticed something was wrong. We were all too afraid of the risk it would take to tell someone what was going on, and we had all been kept on a leash too short to get the police involved. It was nearly a week after I was taken from the basement when they told me they found something buried in the trees on the edge of the swamp that was near our house. 2 large trunks were hidden there, but no keys were found in our house. When the boxes were pried open, they found the bodies of my siblings. If the trunks had been found sooner, Aiden would have survived. Or if he hadn't tried to run, he wouldn't have been sent there. I was told that they had both been suffocated and buried alive. That's what happened. My mother has yet to be found, and my siblings are dead. And every day it haunts me to know that I was wearing the keys to my siblings' coffins while there was still some time to save them.